This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, welcome back to another edition of AuthorU-Your Guide to Book Publishing, and with me is a repeat guest. Her words are really gold, and it's she's got a brand new edition of her book. And if you have it, I'm just going to tell you, order another one. I did it. My copy came in. I immediately posted a review on Amazon. But it's called the Self-Publishers Legal Handbook. It's updated. And a lot of it, and I'll ask Helen why she did the update. And going in, our guest is Helen Sedwick. She's based on the West Coast, and I really love what Publishers Weekly said, one of the top 5 resource books for indie authors. Forward Magazine, one of the most valuable resources a self-publisher can own. And I'm going to say indie publisher, and frankly, any author, I don't care who you publish with. Well-written and authoritative, yet unhampered by legalese. And that's the big plus here, is that when we really strive on AuthorU, Your Guide to Book Publishing, to cut down, get rid of the crap, get down to the core so you understand the concepts and what to do and how to use it. So I think, first of all, Helen, welcome back to the program.
Glad to be here.
So, I asked you off the air, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it on the air. So what's new? What's improved? Why? Because your other edition really wasn't that old.
I published it 3 years ago, and in those 3 years, I've gotten thousands of questions from writers, either at conferences or email or comments on posts. And I heard what worries writers most on the legal side. And I realized, okay, there's some things that I need to cover that I didn't cover in the first book, or I need to spend more time on. One of the topics that the number one thing I get questions about is writing about real people and using real names. So I expanded on that discussion. And other areas include using pen names, and a more hands-on explanation about how to set up the business part of writing. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the topics, and sometimes I just explained some concepts in a new way. I just have had a chance to learn from writers what it is they need, and to make it, I really strived in the first edition and in the second edition to make this really user-friendly. I'm not out to intimidate anybody or to show off or anything like that. It's a handbook. It's supposed to be useful. So I just have this urge to be useful.
Yeah, and it's a terrific book. So I'm going to highly recommend it to everyone, the Self-Publishers Legal Handbook. Make sure you get the second edition. It's got a black cover, so you'll know the difference. I think it's a good idea when we change our covers a little bit so people know what they're looking for when there's a new, improved version. So, let's jump. I'm going to jump into the pen name thing, because I get that hit a lot too, Helen, that when should I use a pen name? So I always want to ask, well, why are you considering using a pen name? Because now we're talking about developing a whole new persona, in a lot of ways, to really get going there. And that, what's the reason, and are you prepared to do another website? I mean, that's one of the things I'm going to throw at them right away, because they don't think about that, and then are you going to be doing media? How are you going to show up? Are you going to show up as the real you or your other persona? Those are some of the questions I get into.
Yeah, the bottom line is you can use a pen name, but it will make your life more difficult. And people don't realize it. They think it's going to make life easier because they can kind of hide behind this pen name and not have to answer for what they're writing. But ultimately, you have to have 2 identities. You have to try to keep them straight. There are ways to have, there are many reasons to have a pen name. One of the best might be that your name happens to be Stephen King, and so you can't really publish under that name, or it's a common name, or it's difficult to spell or difficult to find. So you can think of a pen name as being kind of a brand, your brand name, and that you don't really try to hide that it's you. It just might be a shorter version of your name. It might be your maiden name, or maybe your nickname, something where you don't really have to have a separate identity because it's very open that it's you. That makes sense, but in terms of hiding who you are, I think you're going to find it be very difficult to maintain that secrecy. You're probably going to blow it at some point.
Yes.
And all that work. And that it will just make, and that if there's something in your writing that you're really afraid of, it may be that the fear is ungrounded. That should be looked at. Or if it really is, you're really writing the tell-all about somebody with a deep pocket, work with an attorney on ways to do it so that you're less likely to blow it. But some of the tricks, if you do decide to do a pen name, one of the big questions that come up is, how do I register the copyright? And that's an easy question to answer. You can register the copyright in your own name, in your pen name, or in both. And in most cases, it makes sense to do it in both. There are different lines that you fill in on the application form, and one says your real name and one says your pseudonym or pen name.
Oh, well, that's a great tip. So when you do your copyright, you have the opportunity to do the real name and the pen name. But, of course, if they're trying to hide, then we have another problem, right?
Yes, you can just do it in your pen name, and just make sure that you keep enough paperwork, with really your estate plan, that it's clear that that pen name is you. Because that's when it's going to matter when you pass away, if those are rights that you want to make sure your heirs know about and can benefit from, that you make sure you make that clear in your estate plan. But
that's an excellent tip. Yeah. All right. So for estate planning, notify your heirs and put it in your will, right?
Yes.
Notify heirs and put it in the will. All right, that's a good idea to do. So let's talk about, I want to get into a little bit more, why a pen name? Why a pen name? I mean, you hear a variety of reasons why people do it, and you might want to share some of those, but when does it make sense to really do the alternate?
Well, I think the biggest reason is privacy. People maybe are writing something a little racy, and they don't want people to know they like bondage fiction or something. Or they're writing a memoir, or they're writing something based upon real people. And using a pen name will make it a little harder for people to figure out who you're writing about and who you are. Again, it might be that you have a common name, or a name that's already a name of an already famous writer, or that you're doing a collaboration, and rather than having 2 or 3 names on the cover, the collaboration comes up with their own pen name. Some people
great. Good idea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some people with really long names, long last names, want to shorten it because you think about everything's a thumbnail online. You want to have like a 4 or 5 letter last name if you can. You don't want a 17-letter last name because no one's going to be able to read it in a thumbprint. So I think the biggest reason that it appeals to people is that the sense of privacy. They feel more free to write and publish things they don't want their neighbor or their boss to know about.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is kind of a good segue because the privacy situation, the libel situation, some people being challenged with slander. And I guess maybe, Helen, first of all, why don't you define the difference between libel and slander for our listeners?
Well, both of them are a form of defamation. Slander is spoken, libel is written, but let's call it defamation because that's the bigger category. Defamation is a false statement that can be read as a fact, not as an opinion, but as a fact, about an identifiable person that seriously damages their reputation, their ability to be part of society and earn a living. And if it's a public figure, it has to be made with knowledge that, or reasonable knowledge that it was false. So it's a difficult case for people to present. But let's look at that one element, which was an identifiable person. A lot of times, I mean, you can change the name and you can change the characteristics, but to mask a person, let's say if it's a fictional piece. But if also you change your name, it may be harder for people to identify that the person you're talking about is your brother-in-law or the former boss or something like that. So pen names are often used as one more layer to make it harder to identify the bad actors in a book. Also, people think it might keep them from being tracked down and sued. It probably won't work that way. I mean, with the internet, people are going to figure out. If they can't figure out through the internet, if they end up going to court, they're going to figure out who you are.
And they do. I mean, it's very hard to hide. And it used to be in the old days, well, if I have a C corporation, it'll protect me from everything if a lawsuit comes. And yeah, right.
It doesn't. And I do talk about this in the book as well, this myth of that if you incorporate, you somehow have this shield against you from liability. That doesn't really work for writers because it's not the act of the corporation or the LLC that defamed somebody. It was the writer. So people just will sue the corporation and the writer.
Yeah, they just, typically they sue everybody in Timbuktu if they can. Yeah. I mean, you're looking for where the deep pocket is, and sometimes you don't know what the deep pocket is, so you throw out a very wide net. Right. I mean, that's been my experience when I've observed lawsuits on that.
If a writer is writing a high-risk book, where the writer's going after big money, big banks, big ag, something, it's a better option is to get media perils insurance. It's expensive, but if you buy insurance, and I do talk about this in the book, if you buy insurance...
Let's hold on that, because we're going to take a quick break here, because I think opening up the media peril insurance and what it does is an important topic. So let's come back after our break and just kiss that one. This is AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. I'm Judith Briles. With me is Helen Sedwick, and she is the author of Self-Publishers Handbook.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join AuthorU today through its website at AuthorU.org. Follow AuthorU on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at AuthorU, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. AuthorU, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
First impressions are everything in the world of book publishing. Whether your book is an ebook, a print version, or both, your book cover needs to pop, sizzle, and sparkle to immediately capture the attention of your audience. And your book's interior needs to be just as dynamic and reflect the professionalism your readers demand. Nick Sellinger of NZ Graphics has won numerous national and international book awards for his cover designs and interior layouts. With over 20 years of experience in graphic design, he knows what it takes to create award-winning books and the many promotional pieces that authors need, such as posters, banners, postcards, one-sheets, business cards, logos, and more. Visit ncgraphics.com and see what authors and publishers have to say about their award-winning books and how NZ Graphics can make your book the success it was meant to be. That's nzgraphics.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, Helen, let's talk lawsuits, and if they happen. I mean, I'm aware of some of what's called SLAP laws, so I would like to have you kiss on that because a lot of people are not familiar with even the term on that. But what happens when there's two sides of this, I think, that we need to address. What happens if you get hit with a challenge, and why should you think about perils types of insurance? As well as what happens when you go astray and you basically might have been conned or roped into something you had no business getting into. So I don't know which way you want to kiss first.
Well, let's talk about SLAP. I mean, what SLAP is suppose you're a journalist and you've written a expose exposing a particular company to the fraud and dirt pollution caused by a particular company. The company may turn around and sue you, claiming that by quoting their website you violated their copyright and you violated their trademark rights and that you've defamed them. Mm-hmm. And the company knows that they don't have a claim. They're merely intimidating the publication and the reporter or the writer for posting this material and trying to discredit it and get it off out of publication. So that's called a strategic lawsuit against public participation. That's what the SLAP means, and it's part of the abuse of our legal system, using big bucks to intimidate. And so many states have what are called anti-SLAP provisions, which is if you can demonstrate to the court that this was a baseless lawsuit intended to intimidate, you can win an award and you can win attorney's fees. Anybody who feels that they've been hit with a SLAP or threatened with a SLAP, it's beyond what we can do on a radio show. You need to talk to an attorney who's familiar with that area because your home and your lifestyle is at risk. You need to get some help. If you do have insurance, what's called media perils insurance, which is quite pricey, but worth it if you're writing a high-risk book. What's great about insurance is they hire the attorneys and handle the litigation. If you have a corporation, you would have to hire the attorneys and handle the litigation. You really want an insurance company to do that if it makes sense for your book and your budget.
And so what kind of books, Helen, would really be, or maybe we need to say a genre writing into and an author that you really need to be, looking at medias and perils insurance?
Frankly, it has to do, I think, with the overlap of money and emotion. Mm-hmm. I think if there's a lot of money involved, or if anybody, the writer or the target, the person you're writing about, has a lot of money, there's a chance of getting sued because lawsuits are very expensive. And so even though you may be writing about your mother-in-law, if she doesn't have the money, if she doesn't have $40,000 to drop on an attorney, she may not invite you to any family gatherings, but she's probably not going to sue you.
That is one of the, let me just do a side thing. I think when people do memoirs, that's one of their biggest things. Yeah. If they're afraid, maybe they, especially if they came from and this is very typical, they had a very abusive upbringing, or there was a really bad apple in the family. And it could have been a mother, it could have been an uncle, fill in the blank. And so when they're starting to write them, there is this fear of even having in them because there's going to be a retaliation. And my experience is the retaliation is most likely you're excluded from the family gatherings, which might be a good idea. But that, why do you want to be around these people?
But, I think that's a whole topic. But with memoir, it's not the writing it, it's the publishing it that gets you in trouble. And that writing it may be incredibly valuable for the writer. Now, when that writer comes to publishing it, he or she may want to think about, what could be the consequences, and are there things that I can do to lessen those consequences without weakening the message of the book? And often there are. Often you've kind of worked something out in your system that you don't have to use the book to get even anymore. You're using the book to show your journey.
What is ringing here? Got it. Okay, we're good.
Okay. So I can tell you in memoir that really lawsuits are quite rare. People get upset, but often people are actually relieved in a family that the truth is finally out, or at least somebody's thoughtful version of the truth. So I try to encourage writers to turn off that inner editor that says, oh, my mother-in-law is going to be mad at me. Turn that editor off while you're writing, and don't turn it back on again until you think about publishing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I'm also going to come back to that, that could be, I think therapy, I totally get that. But if it's really an intricate part of who you are and your core story, I would question leaving it out. Maybe you need to have a discussion with that person, or maybe you talk to the, your local attorney that has publishing experience, not your estate planning attorney, not your real estate attorney, and get some input before you totally shy away. My style is more, if it's the truth, it's the truth, and part of this, but. You do have to look at the consequences. It works both ways.
Yeah, but part of the message that a lot of people who've survived abuse, they've heard this message that they're not entitled to talk about it and they're not entitled to complain about it. So I try to encourage people to get past that. They are entitled to write about this, and they should. And then don't turn on that inner editor, if ever. But it's only if you decide to publish it. And then there are ways to reduce the risk, but still maintain the integrity and power of the story. Mm-hmm. But you can't do that until you've finished the writing part and the exploration part. So don't turn off that inner editor and go for it, is what I say.
Yeah, I just really believe that. Because, I have one author I'm working with right now, and she had a really horrible mother. And I said, so did I. So, all right. So that going through that, she says, and she said she'll be really angry. And I said, well, so?
Yeah.
So is she going to tell people not to buy your book? Is she even going to care about your book? Is she going to? You really have to work that through. So.
Right. Or people say, sisters and siblings say, I don't want you to write about it. It upsets me to remember that. Mm-hmm. That's not a legal claim. As I said, that may affect whether you're invited to family gatherings, but a legal claim requires much more egregious behavior. But let's pause for a second. Let's first talk about what's permitted. What writers don't have to worry about naming somebody or talking about somebody in a positive or neutral fashion. You don't need permission to put someone's name in your acknowledgement, or to say your fifth grade teacher's name, or to list your sister's names. If you're talking about somebody in a factual or neutral or even positive manner, you're not risking any legal claim. It's only when you're giving information that's seriously damaging to somebody, that they're criminal, that they're perverted, that they're corrupt, professionally incompetent. It has to be a very damaging information. It's only then that you need to start thinking back. It's not that someone's obnoxious or overbearing. That's not a libel claim. It's that they're dealing drugs and murdering people. That's a libel claim. So I hope I can I can calm people down that, no, you don't have to worry about mentioning somebody in a neutral way or a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. And I've told people that too, that, if this is glowing and positive and all that, you're a pretty safe territory on that. But you never know. I remember, Helen, one time I did an interview in one of my books that was really, I was really cheering for what she had done in this women's health group that she headed up. And it was pulled directly from the interview. And I've always told people when I've done interviews and I'm quoting them directly, I actually give them a copy of what gets written up. So do you want to alter it? Do you want to make any changes? And I give them the pages before and after so they can see how the whole segment, that little module, comes together. And I remember one woman coming back. She was in Iowa. And she says, there's no way I could have said this. There's no way I talk like this. There's no way. And my publisher says, and even though it was very positive, what I wrote, she said, we're going to yank this. It's just, I don't want problems. There's something off with her. And, we did, but I'll never forget that. But I, when I'm quoting people and I've had a good relationship, I always share some of those things ahead. And I actually get them to sign off when I'm doing interviews.
That's a great way to do it. It means there's one less stress in your life, and I'm all for reducing stress. So, and lawsuits are often, I talked about money's involved, but often it's just emotions. Often there's no money involved, but emotions are so high that people overreact. So, and if there's a combination of a lot of money and a lot of emotion, that's very dangerous territory legally. So it's a judgment call, and you have to think about if you're still going to be publishing very damaging information, then you need to spend some time before you publish it, considering the risks and considering what risks you need to take for your story and what risks you don't really need to take for your story. And that's easier to do when you're far down the writing process. Does that make sense to you? You work with writers closely.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it does. And so I just want them to get the book done. Right now I'm in the middle of right halfway through my class I teach on how to write a book in 4 weeks. And, I set boundaries really quick on what they can do and what they can't do. But the point is just we're writing now. Just dump. I want you to dump. Don't worry about anything else. With that, we're going to take another break. We'll be right back. With me is Helen Sedwick. She's the author of a must-have book called Self-Publishers Legal Handbook.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Want to publish like a pro today? Well, then take a look at Ingram Spark, the only publishing platform that offers print and ebook services through a single source. Upload, edit, and manage titles all in one place. Take more control of printing costs with print on demand, and reach even more readers through one of the world's most extensive distribution networks. Built by independent publishers for independent publishers, Ingram Spark has everything you need to maximize your book's potential: color printing, ebook distribution, print on demand, global reach, and more. Start publishing with Ingram Spark today and see just how far your titles will go tomorrow. That's ingramspark.com.
Many of us have dreamed of writing a book.
Some of us even have.
Then the hard work starts.
You'll need an editor.
Who will design the cover or typeset the pages?
Who will format the ebook?
If you're a business owner, consultant, or coach with a serious message and expertise to share, the team of experts at 1106 Design can guide you through the maze.
They've helped more than 1,000 authors create top-quality books and avoid the not-so-reputable self-publishing companies.
Learn more at 1106design.com.
Then call Michelle at 602-866-3226. 1106 Design.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
You know, this is kind of off the mark, but Helen, do you have any thoughts about, I get this question a lot of times from people who are writing, not dicey stuff, but maybe topics that include some psychology to it, or they think that if they bring on a co-author. So I think what I'd like to have you kiss on is the whole collaboration and when you do a partnering in writing and what happens if it goes to hell, so to speak. And that they sometimes feel that they need to bring on a PhD of some sort, some highly credentialed person, and they're just, Joe Smith. And they think that their story won't have enough power unless they need a cred with it. Now, I have opinions about that, but you do have any legal side you're thinking about that?
I insist and push writers very hard to sit down and try to put a collaboration agreement in writing. Because the process of sitting down and asking a bunch of questions, and I put a bunch of things to talk about in the book, the process of sitting down and going through those things, even if they're a little uncomfortable, will disclose where you and your collaborator, your partner, are coming in with different assumptions. And it's where you have different assumptions that you're going to have a problem later on. Like if you're assuming, like you're bringing in an expert author, you're assuming that you're going to be the author of the book and that expert is going to be like just kind of mentioned, and you talk about your interviews with them, but that expert thinks that they're going to be the co-author and their name's going to come first. You need to figure that out before you spend a lot of time on it. So one of the beauties of sitting down and putting an agreement in writing is if you do a really good job talking it through and putting it in writing, you may never have to look at it again because you've talked through the issues. I get emails and calls all the time from people who started a project with somebody. They never put it in writing. They never really talked about it because it's a bit like a romance. You don't want to analyze your romance too much. And then it doesn't work out. Most of the time it doesn't. They split up and nobody knows who owns what can you do with it? The project just have to die? Talk about those things up front.
Yeah.
And if you haven't done it, and you decide you need to get out, you need to communicate with your partner. You need to, and then try to keep it calm and figure out how to split the equivalent of the pots and pans in a way that you can both go on and continue to create and go on with your lives, and try to put the emotion aside.
Mm-hmm. And yes, and this is a business deal. I'm just going to say this is a business deal. So you need to have expectations of what each of you are going to bring to the party. And if someone doesn't bring what they're supposed to bring, what's the consequence for it? So I always believe you plan the divorce before you get married. And I know I was in a situation where there was three of us, and I had written a book called The Dollars and Cents of Divorce many, 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 many years ago that did very well. And we were going to do, I was approached by a couple of people that one I knew quite well, and the other one was a good colleague of the one I knew quite well and had worked with for a variety of things. And, why don't we take this and redo it and do a pitch and get it out there? And I said, well, that'd be kind of fun because this is, it's out of date and it should be doing this. And I actually agreed to do this, Helen, for all the wrong reasons. But one of the biggest wrong reasons was I realized that I was the writer of the group and I was going to end up doing 95% of the work. And that is what, we did sell it to a New York publisher. And, it was a third deal. And I was the lead on it. And the problem was I wasn't doing financial work at that time. I did it for all the wrong reasons, that I wanted to be fun. I like fun, but I wanted to support my friend, but I had no business doing it. One of my mottos is don't do well what you have no business doing. I want all of you listening in to keep that in mind. Don't do well what you have no business doing. I really had no business doing this. I wasn't doing financial planning. I wasn't doing consulting on some of this pre-planning that was needed in the divorce. I was a great sleuth. I could figure out where stuff was unbelievable. And that it was wrong for me to do that because it didn't tie into who and what I was doing at that time. So that I completed the book. It was, excellent book that came out. And that, and it was my vow of never again will I go down that path, because I decided that my relationship with Carol Ann was more important. She was my friend, and I was going to support her, but I would not do this again. I completed it, and let it go. But you got to decide here what you're going to do.
You do. Collaborations can be very successful, but they can, unfortunately, most of the time, I think they don't work out. Just in any relationship, communication is key. If you're finding yourself doing more work than you think is fair, and you just simply stew about it, that's only going to make the matter worse. So collaboration, like any other partnership, benefits from forcing yourself to have conversations and communicate with your partner, even about the uncomfortable things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And just get it out there right up front. And I did have discussions, and Carol Ann would say, well, here, we'll give you more money. And I said, no, this is what we agreed. This is what the agreement, and I'll get this done. And I did, but it was like, but the outcome was, I will not do this again,
I have found collaborations work well if the partners don't start with the first chapter, start with an outline of your project, because that'll really help you learn whether you both have the same vision of the project. It will, get a sense of your partner's work style. I did a collaboration with somebody who was a last-minute person. Drove me crazy because I'm a way in advance person. And neither of us were ever going to change our methods. We either had to accept each other's methods or not. Yeah. So start with a small project, which could be the outline of your book, and see how that works before, date before you get married is what would be another recommendation on my part.
Oh, a book coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we actually had done that. We did lay it all out, but here's what I didn't do, because I had already written the whole book, and we were doing some adds and changes. And what I didn't realize when I said, here, you guys, this is your thing, you write this chapter, and 3 paragraphs came back, and I went, what the heck? And I had to, I had to write it. So anyway, that was my saga, and they can work very well, because I have some writing teams I work with, and they're so much fun to see the creativity just bubble out. in what they do and where they go with it. All right, so here's what I want to do here. I mean, we're doing segue, but I did want to talk about collaboration. Let's talk about some of the stuff that that people offer on their websites, all the free downloads from your books, maybe from other books, and also, is there anything that you offer? What about some of the things that I see offered with books, which I've always cautioned, Helen, authors about doing so much. When you start offering links in your book, my experience is those bloody links get broken all the time, and all of a sudden, you're dated. You've got a problem in it and collecting back. So I'm going to tell people, if you're referring to entities, articles, something on someone's website, just give the master website and encourage them to search with this keyword or something like that.
Good point.
And you keep yourself out of date trouble here. So what do you want to add here?
Let's talk about, if I Google my name, I'm going to see 40 websites offering free downloads of my books. And it's upsetting. It's like a kick in the stomach. Nobody likes to see these people offering your books for free. And there are things authors can do. Although at the end of this, I'm going to say it's not worth the time. You can send what's called a takedown notice to the ISP, the internet service provider that hosts the site, and they can get it taken down. And if you search takedown notice, you'll see lots of instructions on how to do it. Or if someone posts a poem of yours on Facebook or Twitter, Facebook and Twitter have a way of sending a takedown notice through usually their help menu. But on a lot of these sites that are offering free downloads, they're scams. They're out of Russia or out of other countries. They're going to ignore your takedown notice, and they're not really downloading your book. They're downloading malware. They're using your book as bait, which is also
they are. Yeah. Okay. You know what? Here's Helen. I need to. We're going to take a final break here, but I want to come back on the bait factor, because it is bait and it is malware that they're doing. And oh my God, we have Russia back, and I mean, Russia is notorious for that. So in fact, you may click on it and you find babes doing all kinds of things. I'm telling you, it's really a problem for you. But we're going to come back. We're going to take a final break, and we'll talk about really how to protect your content.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today. 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207. Or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at MyBookShepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
One of the most important decisions you will ever make is your choice for printing your book. You are choosing a company which will be responsible for guiding you through the process and printing your book at a level of quality and detail that embraces your personal and creative needs. You want to choose a company that when your book finally arrives, you are delighted and ready to move on to the next level, and one that is customer focused. Choose King Printing Company and Addy Books to be that company that brings you to the next level. Go to kingprinting.com or call 978-458-2345 and ask for Tom Campbell.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, in this last segment with Helen Sedwick, the author of Self-Publishers Legal Handbook, the second edition. That's the one I want you to get. It has a black cover. It's updated, highly, highly recommended. And I bought my copy, and I had the other copy, but, things get updated all the time. And one of the things we went to the break is I wanted to come back on how companies out there lure others in via the internet. And we're dealing with content theft. And then I wanted to focus on one of the things when you're looking for self-publishing, indie publishing help, some of the things that you need to look for and how to keep away so you don't become the prey, which actually in a lot of cases you are. So Helen, what do you want to add to that?
Well, we were talking a bit about the companies that offer free downloads of your book, and this is a problem. Every writer is going to have this problem, that their books are going to be used as bait by these scam artists. There are a couple ways you can send takedown notice, and Judith, you and I were talking during the break. There are companies now offering this service, helping you monitor for these kinds of sites and sending them the notice that they have to take your book off their site. And what were those companies that Judith?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the ones that I've recommended is Piracy Trace.
Okay.
PIRACYTRACE.com. And they will monitor, you put in your book title, your ISBN, they'll monitor it, one book for $1, five books for $4, 10 books for something like $8. That's a month, all right? So if you just have one book, you think about, okay, so if this is really something that's really bothering me, and because Helen is absolutely right, this is malware bait, and they're trying to get you to redirect you and capture and get you going in another area. People who download the freebies because they have to turn over their email usually to do that. And this is a way to let you know who the players are, who's offering your stuff. And you get reports. You can download anytime to see where they are. The second thing is I would go to is a website called IP. That's Igloo Penguin, IP Watchdog, IPWatchdog.com, and they have the legal letter to take content down. And don't change words in it. Don't think that you're a better writer. It's the legal letter. And you do is you add your title and your ISBN, and you give them the IP, and you send it off to wherever it is being posted. And as Helen says, they've got 24 hours to yank that baby down. Doesn't mean it's not going to pop up again. But so you've got monitoring you're going to be doing, and you decide how you want to manage your time. All right, so I'll just say that.
Yeah. And it's also the option is that you could just do nothing. That's the choice I made. It becomes a game of whack-a-mole, and they're all always going to be popping up. And I have other things to do with my life because when I do these searches and I see that there are 40 different sites offering my website, it just rattles me. It rattles me. It really bothers me. And then I can't get anything done, and I think, well, I could spend the next 45 minutes trying to get all these guys to stop. Or I can go to a yoga class, and I'll go to the yoga class instead because I'll feel better after that. So, there are choices other than it's just a personal choice, but it's nice to know there are options out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is. Okay, so let's just, in our last few minutes, let's talk about how authors can protect themselves, not just from the whack-a-mole approach.
Oh, yeah. The worst ones are some of these companies, because we're dreamers, and we're somewhat vulnerable to these people who are going to charge us a lot of money and give us poor service. And there's a lot of that in the self-publishing area. There's a company, Author Solutions, that has a whole family of different companies that have a terrible reputation and well-deserved for charging a fortune, overselling writers, and not providing very quality services. Personally, I think authors are better off if they're going to be independently publishing by really working with an individual like you, Judith, or there are other individuals where you're really talking to somebody who has their own small business, who cares about your book and their reputation, or doing it yourself. That I have, both of us have heard stories and talked to people who've started working with these self-publishing companies and have been talked into tens of thousands of dollars worth of services. And these companies tend to target the elderly. It's really upsetting. But they tend to manipulate people to say, don't you want to be remembered by this wonderful book? And if you just spend $10,000 more. And so you have to be very careful. There are a lot of very honest people in this business, but there are some companies that are taking advantage of unsophisticated buyers and dreamers. And so I just want to warn people to really do your homework and research before you sign on with any self-published servicing provider. And there are sites where you can find that information.
Well, since you mentioned Author Solutions, I'm just going to tell you, some of the other names of Author Solutions. You would see Author House, iUniverse, Trafford Publishing, Ex Libris, Polylibro, Book Tango. Then they have these kind of stealthy deals with Simon & Schuster. There's Archway Publishing, Thomas Nelson. I have seen more people sucked into the Christian publishing thing with Westbow Press, Hay House, Balboa Press. Oh my God! And Guidepost, Inspiring Voices, Writer's Digest even has Abbott Press, and there's others out there. But I'm telling you, if the key address the city is Bloomington, Indiana, run.
The other thing is some of them pretend to be traditional publishers. They ask you to submit your manuscript for evaluation as if they're accepting you. And they accept everybody. But it's a way, and they pretend to be a publisher, but as soon as they ask for your credit card information, they are not a traditional publisher. They're a self-publishing company, and you need to approach them the same way you would anybody who you're about to pay $5,000 or $10,000 to. Do your homework.
Do your home. Yeah, there's just no question about that. And Helen and I have files of people who have been taken to the cleaners and how we have tried to help them unravel and get some of their monies back. And sometimes we've been really successful, and other times just too much time has passed. in it. And Helen, I'll never forget the time when I asked this one individual, says, so why did you sign with them? And he said, I just wanted to get them from stopping to call me.
Yeah, they are experts at separating you from your money. Then that's what they care about. They don't care about your book. They don't care about you. They care about what money they can get from you. And it's think about the used car salesman image. Keep that in mind as they're trying to sell you. They are selling you. They're not,
and they're upselling, and they specialize in upselling. And so you may get in on the bare thing for $567 or whatever, we'll publish your book for $447, and all of a sudden you're in for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000. I mean, I've seen people up for multi-five figures in these things, and that's just not where you want to get. And another thing I'm going to tell you, that if anyone approaches you and they say, look, if you change your mind, you can get out, because a lot of times they'll have termination clauses in there. And Helen, we only have like 2 minutes left, and I'd love to kiss on that. But if anything has a clause that says mutually agreeable, don't sign it. If you want out, there's rarely anything mutually agreeable about it.
I've had people terminate with these companies, and they're still selling their books. They can't.
Yes.
It's been a year of telling them, take my book off your website, stop selling my book, and they're still doing it.
Oh, we had that happen with Morgan James. We terminated. One of my partners said, well, let's go with them. And I said, oh, my God, what a mess. Accountability, what a mess. And we terminated with them years ago, and they are still selling the book.
Oh, so. Yeah. This is why I wrote the handbook.
There you go. All right. So, so in a minute, I'm going to tell everyone more time. Helen Sedwick is a California-based attorney. She specializes in author and business law. And she's just done an update. It's really pretty much hot off the press, but the Self-Publishers Legal Handbook. It's a second edition. I just highly recommend it to all of you. It's not bedside reading. I get that, but it's something that you can pick up and start with the very first chapter. I mean, just really the whole setup here as you get into it, and you get, it's indie authors to the rescue, a whole kind of components. So Helen, thank you so much for being with me again. We'll have to do it. We should do this every quarter, just what's going on in Authorland. And doing that. All right, everyone, AuthorU has got the extravaganza popping up here September 7th to 9th. Plan on being in Denver, Colorado. Information is on AuthorUextravaganza.org. We'll be back with you next week.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week,